Hi folks, this is Karim Rao from IT Visualizers channel. We will continue our lab, the Red Arrow lab. This is the video number 39. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We have been continue working with securing our Windows Server 2019 based on the recommendation of the Department of Defense and the Defense Information System Agency of the United States. This is the video number 9. We have been working on securing Windows Server 2019 for 8 videos. We have discussed a lot of concepts and a lot of recommendations and protection methods to secure Windows Server 2019. Some of them, or some of these protection methods are implemented using a group policy. Some of them are used, or some of them are implemented by disabling unnecessary services or unsecure services on the Windows Server. And we continue working with these recommendations. We have stopped the last time at this recommendation: Windows Server 2019 early launch anti-malware boot start driver initialization policy must prevent boot drivers identified as bad. So this is a protection that you enable on your Windows Server to protect it from some type of viruses that infect the boot process of the operating system. So we all know that when you open your server, you just power on your server, there is some time until your operating system is initialized and it is working. This time is called the boot time. Okay, so for example, you power on your machine, then there will be a black screen. It will begin loading the different drivers, and then it will get you to a screen which is the boot screen. You have the Windows logo, and you have something like a circle running until you get the login screen that contains your username and password. Some of these viruses, or there is some type of malware that infects this process during the booting or the initializing your operating system. One of them, for example, will get you, or will not enable you to boot to your system. It will get you to another completely different screen or login screen, or it will prevent booting of your operating system. So the early launch malware, it is a way to protect your Windows Server from malware, or a type of malware that infects the boot process, or it will affect the boot process. Okay, so what it basically do, it will monitor the process of the booting of the operating system, and it will search and scan all of the files used for booting your operating system. So if there is any file that is detected, or there is a driver that is detected as bad, or there is suspicious that it is a malware, it will prevent it. This is basically what it will do. So let's see the description. He say compromised boot drivers can introduce malware prior to protection mechanism that load after initialization. The early launch malware driver can limit allowed drivers based on classification determined by the malware protection application. At minimum, drivers determined to be bad must not be allowed. So let's see a small or simpler description. What is early launch malware protection Windows 10? It is a special driver shipped with Windows 10. It is enabled by default, and it serves to protect the operating system against threats at early boot. So this is the process it will come to play. It will prevent a malware that infects not the operating system, infects the boot files that will help you boot or initialize your operating system. So this is one of the things we need to enable, this kind of protection. Anyway, it is enabled by default, so we just need to make sure it is already working. Okay, so let's see how we can do this. So let's continue here. We will go and see if we have this kind of protection working. It is by default. Is saying here it is by default enabled. How we can know it is enabled? We can go to the registry and see early launch section driver load policy. If it is there, then it is enabled. Okay, so let's go and see, or we can directly, if we don't know how to access the registry, or if you are sure that we didn't enable it, but as I said before, it is already enabled by default, so you can check the registry and see if it is working or not. If it's not working, we can enable it for any reason. If it's not enabled, we can enable it through a group policy. So we will go to our Windows Server hardening group policy, and edit. And then we need to choose or go to administrative templates, early launch malware. Okay, we'll go to policies, then administrative templates. Okay, and then we'll go, I think, to system. So we'll wait for a couple of seconds. I think we can pause it real quickly here, and then you can go further. Here you go, it is here. Just wait for a moment. We have opened administrative templates, system, then early launch anti-malware, and then boot start driver initialization policy. Okay, and then let's see what is the option we need to choose. So here we will open it. Just wait for a moment. I think we have something like a performance issue in my machine here. We'll tell him to enable. Okay, and then we need to choose here good, unknown, and bad but critical. So we will choose this one, and he's already chosen by default. Okay, here I have made a mistake and tell him all. It's not the correct option, or it's not the correct and not the secure one. You need to choose good, unknown, and bad but critical. If you need to know what this means, you can read the description, but anyway, we have known the function of this group policy. It enables us, or it protects the operating system in the phase of the boot, or during the phase of the booting to the operating system. So we will choose good, unknown, and bad but critical, because in the video I have recorded that I have used all. It's not correct. We will choose this one anyway. So we'll continue. Here is saying, okay, enable, set it to not configured or enabled with any other option except all. He will say any other option except all. If you return to the PDF, any other exception than all selected. So I have mistaken because I didn't read it. Here you can see that the other recommendation, or the next recommendation, group policy objects must be reprocessed even if they have not changed. What we mean by group policy setting to be reprocessed even if they have not changed. For example, if you have a group policy, and how the group policy is applied, the user logs into the machine, and then the different group policies are applied to the user. Okay, this is the normal process. What if you have changed one of the group policies, okay, that are implemented on the user during his or after he logs into a machine? Then the group policy, or the change in the group policy, will reinforce it directly or immediately on the user. Okay, sometimes you need to reboot or to log in again, or log off and log in, so that the group policy is applied. But the normal process, if you made any change to a group policy while the user is logged into machine, it takes effect immediately. Okay, so he's saying here, registry entries for group policy setting can potentially be changed from the required configuration. This could occur as a part of a troubleshooting or a malicious process on a compromised system. Enabling this setting and then selecting the process even if a group policy object has not changed assures that the policies will be reprocessed if none have been changed. This way, any unauthorized changes are forced to match the domain group policy based setting again. Anyway, in short, okay, group policies are applied to the user once he logged into a machine. Okay, and a group policy are reinforced or reprocessed again if there is a change done by the administrator to this group policy. As I said before, for example, if I am a user and log into a machine, a lot of group policies are applied to me. Okay, and for example, if my administrator has changed one of these group policies and I have already logged into the machine, this change will take effect immediately on me. Okay, so here is saying we need to do something called group policy objects must be reprocessed even if they are not changed. What do we mean by this? Sometimes a hacker goes and play with the registry of your machine. And by the way, the group policies, or most of the group policies, play with the registry of your machine to have effect or to implement some changes. So for example, if you need to apply a certain background to your machine, you have a group policy to do this, and the group policy goes and change a key in the registry to apply a certain background. So the same process the hacker does. He goes and hack a machine, and then he plays with the registry to have or to implement some effects he needs. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to or how we can delete this effect. So for example, if a hacker came and change a registry key, for example by applying a new background other than the one that I is already enforcing using my group policy. Okay, so he will go after the user logs in and my background is applied to him. He will go and change the registry and apply a different background. So by having this option, group policy reprocessed, the group policy for the one that I have used to make a certain group policy will to be reinforced and reapplied again. So what the hacker is done will be wiped out, or it will be changed again to my default background. So he's saying here that this should be applied to all of your group policies. So for example, if a hacker goes and change some registry keys done by your group policies, okay, after a certain amount of time, these group policies will be reinforced again, so they will undo the changes the hacker did to your registry. Okay, so this is what he's talking about. Group policy objects must be reprocessed even if they have not changed. The only way the group policy will be reprocessed if there is a change in it, but by enabling this option, it will be reprocessed or reinforced every certain amount of time. This is to enforce or to force to match the domain-based group policy setting again. So if the hacker changes your local group policy and it is not in match with your domain-based group policy, this group policy will ensure that your domain-based group policies are in line with the local group policy of your machine. So let's see how we can do this. Okay, so the hacker can change your registry and do certain damage to your machine. So we will do, or we will ensure that that is not done by enabling this group policy. Okay, so first we need to know if this group policy is already enabled or we are working with it. So we need to go and check the registry, this section, no GPO list changes, and see if it is 0. Okay, so we need to know if it's already applied or not, and I didn't apply this group policy. So let's go directly and enable it. So he will go to the group policy section in system, and then we will tell him to let's go here and see. It is in yes, group policy, and then it is this is the correct section, and then I think logging and tracing, maybe. Let's see here. So let's continue and see what this group policy is. So here, this is it. It is in group policy, configure registry policy, reprocessing, enable, and then we need to enable this option. Okay, process even if the group policy objects has not changed. Okay, and by the way, the group policy, he's saying the part, or I know that the group policy plays with the registry, but from this description, the group policy, I think it will not play with the registry only, but it would play with other things in the Windows. Anyway, he is concentrating on the group policies that plays in the registry of the machine. Okay, so he is saying that we need to reprocess these group policies that plays with the registry of the machine, because the hacker will try to play with the registry to have an immediate effect on the machine. So here we will tell him configure registry policy processing and process even if the group policy objects have not changed. So this is thing we need to check, okay, or to need to put on in it. So he is saying here with the option process even the group policy objects has not changed. So here we need to do this, okay, and configure it. So we need to check process even if the group policy has not been changed. So let's continue. And then the other recommendation, downloading printer driver packages over HTTP must be turned off. Sorry guys. Here for example, if you have plugged a printer in your server and the printer needs to be, or the driver of the printer needs to be verified. So let's have an example, or let's consider that this driver is not available on your Windows operating system. So it will go to the internet, or the Windows will go to the internet and communicate with the manufacturer of this printer and gets the driver for it and install it. So this is the process. You have a printer, unknown printer, or for example it's an HP printer, and you plug it to your server, okay. The server or the operating system of the server or the Windows Server 2019 doesn't have the driver for this HP printer, so it will communicate with the website of HP to get the driver for this printer and download it and install it for you. So here is saying that this process should not be done using the HTTP protocol. So for example, if the Windows goes to the HP website, okay, using the HTTP, the website of HP will ask some things about this printer. What is the model? What is the operating system that you are working with? So it gets you or downloads for you or redirects you to the suitable driver for you. So this is sensitive information. It's saying that some features may communicate with the vendor, sending information or downloading data or components for the feature. Turning off this capability will prevent potentially sensitive information from being sent out the enterprise and will prevent uncontrolled updates to the system. So this setting prevents the computer from downloading printer driver packages over HTTP. So here he is concentrating on, first of all, not to use the HTTP protocol to download printer drivers, and this protocol or this way it also will send data or sensitive data to the website of the manufacturers, okay. So how we can secure this one? We will enable this group policy to disable downloading printer driver packages over HTTP. If we need to download drivers, we need to go to secure websites or use HTTPS websites, download the drivers manually and install it, not to leave that for the Windows to do it, okay, because the Windows automatically will I think will use the HTTP. But anyway, even if we disable it, it will not use this way. Anyway, if you need to do or you need to install a printer, I prefer to download the drivers manually from HTTPS or secure websites and verify the driver of the printer by yourself, not to leave that for the Windows, okay. Anyway, so he's saying that we need to prevent downloading printer driver packages over HTTP. So we will do this and we'll him turn off downloading of printer drivers over HTTP. So let's go here and go to the section he's talking about internet communication and turn off, okay, downloading of printer drivers over HTTP. So here we will disable it. Okay, just wait one moment guys, I need here to say something. Let's go further because I need to do something else here, because I have seen something I need to point to it, okay. He is saying that no, this policy does not prevent the client from printing to the printers on the intranet or the internet over HTTP. It only prohibits downloading drivers that are not already installed locally, okay. So this is another group policy we will enforce. We don't need the user to print to intranet printers or to local printers in your network using the HTTP protocol. For example, when I was working in my hotel, my hotel, there was a service to the guest. We call it internet printing. The guest can open his laptop, connect to a website. Okay, this website you can send, or this website contains a printer. You can send your document to this printer on the internet, and it will be printed to the operator in my hotel in the below floors. So this is a way, but by the way, this method is protected because this internet printer and the website it is on it is using HTTPS anyway. So it's saying here it's some of the security measures not to print to printers over the internet or printers locally in your domain or your network using HTTP. Sometimes, for example, if you have a network printer, something like HP printer, for example, you can open the web browser and type the network IP or the IP of the HP printer and get to the interface of HP and upload a document to this printer and print it. This is also not a good way to print documents. If you need to print something, you can do it by the normal way that you have the network printer installed to your Windows operating system. Open your Word, for example, and print it directly to the machine, not to open your browser and connect to the HP printer using its IP address and then use the interface of the HP operating system for the printer and upload a document and then print. This is not correct. Okay, so anyway, we will enable this and then we will disable or we will enable printing over HTTP. Okay, so this is another thing. We need to prevent client from printing over HTTP, which allows the computer to print to printers on the intranet. Okay, on the internet he means, or as well as the internet. Intranet, this is local or locally, and on the internet. Okay, so this is it. So we need to disable downloading of printer drivers and to print over HTTP. So this is also another recommendation. Turn off printing over HTTP. Okay, this is one we need to enable it. Apply and OK. And then let's go to the next recommendation. Network selection user interface. Okay, must not be displayed on the login screen. So when you open your machine or power on your machine and then the boot process begins and then you have your login screen, you are asked to provide a username and a password. Okay, not only this, you can see in the right bottom of your screen or right bottom of the login screen, you will see the network. Okay, the network that you are connected to, if it's a cable or it is a Wi-Fi, and you have the ability to choose. If you have more than one network, you can choose. For example, if you have Ethernet and you have Wi-Fi and you have more than one Wi-Fi network, you can choose from them before providing your username and password and logging into the machine. So here is saying that we need to not give the user the option to select the network that he will connect to. So for example, if I am in a domain and he is connected to a cable, then he should not be able to change his domain network or domain network connection to connect, for example, to a Wi-Fi, external Wi-Fi. If you have a laptop, for example, and this laptop is connected to my domain network using a cable, so when the user is asked to provide a username and password to log into the domain using the Ethernet connection, he can change the Ethernet connection to a Wi-Fi if his Wi-Fi is enabled. So I need to hide the network selection option, so the user should not see what network he is connected to. And there is another policy: I will enforce him to use my domain internet or domain network connection if it is there, and disable any other network. Okay, so we will have two group policies: one, to hide the network selection from the user, and to enforce him to use the domain network connection if it is available, and to disable any other or to block any other network available for him, for example an external Wi-Fi. Anyway, so he's saying enabling interaction with network selection UI allows user to change connections to available networks without signing into the Windows. So this is what we are talking about. If I can show you something of see here as let's say Windows network, let's say this network user, let's say user interface selection. Let's see here, you see the images here. We can see that this is it, but not this one. I need it from the login screen. Yes, here it is. Let's see here. So this is the network selection interface. So you need to provide your username and password. This is the login screen. You provide your username and password, and you can choose the network, or you can choose what network to connect to from this tab or from this toolbar. Okay, this is called network selection interface. Okay, so this is what we are talking about. This is the network selection interface. We need to hide this from the user, not to let him choose or to change his network. Okay, so let's do this so we can continue and tell him to disable this kind of option, so the user could not change his network, and we will enforce him to use the domain network connection if it is available, and to block any other connection. We have done this previously in other videos, or previous videos before we have done this group policy. Anyway, so we will go and tell him login and tell him to do not display network selection UI or user interface. Okay, so let's continue working, and then we need to, the other recommendation is to prompt it to authenticate when system wakes from sleep. So for example, we all know the sleep option. A sleep option, it is a way it will partially shut down the system, okay, it will be in a standby mode. Once you press any key, the system will be working again. So it's in a sleep mode, in a standby mode. The screen will turn black, the PC seems to be not working, but if you press any key, you will get to your operating system again. So he is saying that if you put your PC in sleep mode and you need to awake it or continue working again, or get it from the sleep mode to the normal mode, you should provide a username and the password. The username and the password that you have logged in with to the machine. So for example, if I am Karim and then I logged into the machine, and then I put my computer to the sleep mode, and then I need to wake it up, it will ask me after waking it up, it will ask me, or it will display the login screen for me and ask me to provide a username and password. This should be done. We should not let the user log in directly from from the sleep to the awake phase without providing a username and the password. A system does not require authentication when resuming from sleep. May provide access to unauthorized user. Authentication must always be authentication. He means providing your username and password. Okay, so if you wake your computer, you should provide a username and the password to log into the machine. Something like when your screensaver is active. Okay, if you leave the machine and then after 15 minutes you return back and you need to get off this screensaver, you should provide a username and the password to get off the screensaver and see your desktop again. Okay, so this is require a password when the computer wakes on battery. So this is for your laptop. If you have your laptop, so you are working on battery or on electricity, so we need to provide both options: when the laptop is on battery or when the laptop is on current or on electricity. When both are in sleep mode and they awake, the user should provide a username and the password to continue working or to log into his machine. Okay, so let's see. We need to enable this option, so we'll go and continue working. It are all basic security recommendations. So let's go to the power management and then we need to go to the energy, I think, or sleep mode, and then we need to tell him to require password when a computer wakes. Plug in, this is the current, or not the battery, it is the electricity or the normal current, and on battery. So we need to enable both, one for the battery and one for the currency, or one for the battery and one for the electricity or the currency, or the current electricity or current electricity. Okay, we'll make it on battery and we'll make it on plug in. Okay, so this is the computer plug-in, enable, apply, and okay. So let's continue working other recommendation. Yes, we have done this already. And then there is a feature in the Windows called Application Compatibility Program Inventory. Must be prevented from collecting data and sending information to Microsoft. So for example, if you need to, for example, upgrade your Windows Server from Windows Server 2019, for example, to Windows Server 2022, so there is a feature called in Windows Server called Application Compatibility Program. This feature will scan your Windows Server 2019 for all of the programs on it and give you or send it to Microsoft, and Microsoft will tell him if these programs will work on Windows Server 2022. So this is Application Compatibility Program. It will say to him if your programs are compatible with Windows Server 2022. So he is saying that using this feature may potentially reveal sensitive data. So for example, if I'm working in a military environment, all of the programs in it should not be revealed to Microsoft. So he's saying here, if you are using Application Compatibility Program, this is mostly used when you need to upgrade from one version of Windows Server to another version, and you need to know if your applications are compatible with the newer version of the Windows Server. Okay, as our example says, we need to upgrade from Windows Server 2019 to Windows Server 2022, and we need to know if the programs installed on Windows Server 2019 are compatible with the Windows Server 2022. So this is done, or we can know this by a program called Application Compatibility Program. It will collect the data about the programs on your server and send it to Microsoft. Okay, so he's saying that we need to enable a group policy to disable this feature. If you need to upgrade from one version to another, you can do this manually. You can communicate with Microsoft and tell him the necessary things he needs to know, not all of the data. Okay, for example, or you can do this manually. You should not reveal your software or reveal what is necessary, or reveal it in a secret, or reveal it in a secure way, not to be hacked by a hacker, for example, during the process of the application program inventory, collecting the data and send it to Microsoft. So the hacker can intervene in the process of this program sending data to the website of Microsoft, so he can know what programs are you are using. Okay, so you can communicate with Microsoft not through the Windows Server 2019 operating system. You can call them on the phone, you can send a secure email anyway. So this is one of the things we need to take into consideration. Okay, so you need to turn off inventory collector. We will go and tell him this is in a military environment, maybe in some production environments, or some multinational environments. Maybe this is not a security issue. Okay, turn off inventory collector, enable, apply, and okay. Then let's go to the next recommendation. Autoplay must be turned off for non-volume devices. What do you mean by autoplay? We all know that this is a feature when you insert a media DVD or a USB. Once you insert it, the media on the DVD or USB will be played automatically. If it's a movie, it will begin working and displaying the movie on your screen, or if it is music, it will begin playing and you will listen to the music directly. This is the autoplay, to play the media directly once you insert the USB or the DVD. This is a very dangerous feature because some viruses use the same concept. Once you put the software, or you have, for example, a DVD that contains a media, and this DVD is infected by a virus, you can, through the autoplay feature, you will not only play the movie directly, but you will play, or you will execute the virus with it. So we need to disable the autoplay. If you need to put a DVD that contains a media or a movie and you need to turn it or to play it, insert it, then open the DVD and then double click on the file, not to make it play automatically. Okay, so it's saying here autoplay may execute or introduce malicious code to a system. Autoplay begins reading from a driver as soon as the media is inserted into that drive. So you can insert your DVD to your DVD-ROM, or to plug your USB to your USB port. It will begin reading the media and playing it directly. As a result, the setup file of the programs or music on audio media may start. This setting will disable autoplay for non-volume devices such as media transfer protocol devices. What is saying here? We need to disable autoplay for devices, not your hard disk, not your local hard disk. So for example, this applies to your DVD, to your USB, to media transfer protocol devices, something like when you insert or you plug your mobile to your PC, or plug your for example, plug your camera. These are called media transfer protocol devices. We need to disable autoplay for all of these devices. These, he mean non-volume devices. That means any devices other than hard disks, your local hard disk or external hard disks. We will see later that we can disable autoplay for any kind of device and any kind of device that is not a hard disk, or even it is a hard disk. So we need to disable autoplay in general for non-volume devices and for volume devices. Okay, so we need to do this using the group policy, disallow autoplay for non-volume devices. Non-volume devices are DVDs, USBs, something like this. So let's say autoplay policies, turn off or disallow autoplay for non-volume devices such as cameras or phones. This is one of the recommendations. And then the Autorun, it is something like the autoplay, but it is for programs. So for example, if you insert for example a game, okay, or DVD or a game DVD, once you insert it, it will begin installation of the game. Okay, this is for non-media files, something like programs or games. Okay, so we need also to not allow Autorun to be executed. Okay, this can be done on non-volume devices, something like a DVD or USB, or even if you download a program from the internet. Sometimes these programs have Autorun feature, so we need to disable the Autorun feature. Okay, allowing Autorun commands to execute may introduce malicious codes to a system. Configuring this setting prevents Autorun commands from executing. If you need to run a program, you should run it by yourself, not let the program run automatically. Okay, once you insert the DVD or USB, or even downloading the program from the internet. So we need to disable this feature. Do not execute. Set the default behavior for Autorun. Do not execute any Autorun commands. Okay, this is the default. Do not execute any Autorun commands. And then we need to go with the next recommendation. Autoplay should be disabled for all drivers. So here we're saying that we need to disable autoplay for, not Autorun, autoplay for all devices. Okay, for all things. So allowing autoplay to execute may introduce, we have done this before, or we have read this before. Autoplay begins reading from a driver as soon as the media is inserted into the drive. We have seen this. Okay, autoplay is disabled on removable devices such as floppy disk, but not the CD-ROM, and network and on network drivers. Enabling this policy disables autoplay on all drivers. So the previous group policy is to disable autoplay on non-volume devices. This will disable autoplay on all drivers. Okay, So also we need to do this. Okay, we need to disable autoplay on non-volume devices and to disable autoplay on all drivers or on all devices. Let's see this. Okay, so you need to turn autoplay on all drivers. So you can choose if you need this to be a DVD or USB. I think this is related to the DVD or USB, or basically the DVD anyway. So Windows Server Administrator accounts must not be enumerated during elevation. So we all know, for example, if I am logging in with a standard user and I need to, or this standard user needs to run a program, once he double click on the setup file of the program, the user something called the user access control screen will appear saying that you are not allowed to install this program. You need to provide an administrator account to install the program. Okay, the normal or the secure process is to give you two fields, one to put the username and the other to put the password. Okay, sometimes this process is not done in this way. Sometimes it gives you the administrator username and just let you put the password. The most secure way is to disable elevation. This is called elevation process. If you are logging in with a standard user and he doesn't have any rights to install any programs, the Windows will ask him to provide a username and a password that are allowed to set up programs. Okay, this process should not be done. You need to disable this completely. If a standard user tries to set up a program and doesn't have any rights, it will give him error. You should contact your administrator and that's it. But in sometimes he is saying that if you enable this feature, or if you are forced to enable this feature, you should not let the Windows give the standard user the name of the administrator or the name of the user that have the rights to install programs. You should make it blank, or you should give him two fields, one for the username and one for the password. Okay, sometimes the username is already there, it's already given to him. This is not a practical, or this is not, or this is a security issue. This should be rectified. So this group policy will not enumerate the administrative accounts or the administrator accounts. Enumerate here we mean by listing the users. So this will disable the listing of the administrator accounts for the standard user. Okay, so we need to do this. So we need to go and enable this option, not to enumerate administrative accounts or local administrator accounts. Let's see how much time we have working. It's 42 minutes. Okay, we have some time. Anyway, so we need to go and so a best practice is to disable elevation. Okay, and if you are forced to use elevation, you need to not enumerate administrator accounts, or not to list administrator or local administrators accounts, not to list them to the user and display to the standard user. Okay, so anyway, we have disabled this feature. He's saying that are displayed when a user attempts to elevate a running application. By default, administrators can be displayed, administrator accounts can be displayed. Anyway, the other recommendation is telemetry must be configured to security or basic. Okay, he's saying here that the telemetry, or this feature in Windows, collects data and send it for Microsoft for let's see, for troubleshooting things, or to know the common problems on its operating system. So for example, we all know that, for example, Windows 10 have a lot of issues with it. So the telemetry collects the most common errors and problems encountered on all of Windows 10 operating system around the world and send it to Microsoft using the telemetry. Okay, so Microsoft can know the common problems and fix them, or issue, for example, updates for them or so. So this feature sometimes collects sensitive data, okay, from the Windows 10 operating system. For example, if there is a feature in Windows that it's not working with a certain program, or there is a conflict between it and a certain program, this program name should be given to Microsoft so it knows how to fix the problem or to give it a complete view. So here is saying that some features may communicate with the vendor. This is telemetry. It communicates with Microsoft website and send him the problems and things happen on the machine. Okay, so he's sending information or system information or downloading data or components for the feature. Limiting this capability will prevent potentially sensitive information from being sent outside the enterprise. The security option, so we can enable the telemetry. Okay, sometimes it is needed, but we will limit it to send certain data, not all of the data on my operating system. So we will configure the telemetry to security or basic. Security option for telemetry configure the lowest amount of data effectively none outside of the malicious software removal tool defender and telemetry client setting. Basic sends basic diagnostic and usage data and may be required to support some Microsoft services. So you are free to choose, or he's giving you two choices to enable telemetry and set it to security option or to basic option. Okay, so this depends upon your environment. If you are in military, I think you can use the enterprise. Okay, so he's saying security enterprise only. I prefer to use this one, not the basic. Okay, so we can go and configure telemetry, allow telemetry, and then we need to tell him security only. So we need to tell him security enterprise. Okay, this is the one. Okay, so the least amount of data to be sent to Microsoft website. Okay, so we can apply and okay, and then we need to continue the other recommendations. Here, this is one of the recommendations. Windows update must not obtain updates from other PCs on the internet. We all know that if you have a Windows server in a domain, it should get its Windows updates from the WSOS server. This is the normal process. It should not get any updates except from the WSOS server or the Windows Server Update Service. Okay, so what if you don't have a WSOS? The server will get its update directly by going to the Microsoft website and downloading the updates. This is the second method, or the second most secure method. Okay, these are two methods: WSOS or communicating with the Microsoft website and downloading the updates. You should not, if you are in a domain, you should not let your Windows server get its update from another server, okay, in your domain. So for example, I have two servers, server X and server Y. Server Y communicated with the website of Microsoft and downloaded the updates. Server X will get its update not from the Microsoft website but from Y server. Okay, so this is not recommended. Or X will go to another PC, for example in another domain maybe, or on another place, and get its updates. Okay, so here is saying Windows Update can obtain updates from additional resources instead of Microsoft website. In addition to Microsoft, updates can be obtained from and sent to PCs on your local network as well as internet. So you can get your update from a local neighborhood PC or from a PC on the internet. This is a part of Microsoft Update trusted process. However, to minimize outside exposure, obtaining updates from or sending to systems on the internet must be prevented. At least you should not get Windows updates from PCs. Okay, you should get it from the Microsoft website or from local, or from WSOS server. I don't prefer to get updates from local PCs on network or from PCs on the internet. So let's configure this option. So we need to go and tell him, I need to tell him simply we will choose the option of bypass. Bypass means to disable the delivery optimization option, okay, or not to get any updates from other PCs in your domain or outside. He will only get the WSOS, or get his updates from the WSOS, and this is configured in another group policy. Okay, so we need to disable any other way to get updates, which are called delivery optimization. We will not let the PC get any updates except from the WSOS. Okay, so we tell him enable, and then we need to choose bypass. Bypass will disable this option completely, so the server or the workstation should be forced to get its update from the WSOS server. it should not get updates from the internet directly, or directly this means from the Microsoft website or from another PC, okay, or get it from a local neighborhood PC, okay. So this is the most secure one, bypass, okay. So this is it. I think we can stop here, guys. Let's see how much time you have. It's 50 minutes. I think we can have another one. Let's continue 1 hour. So this is it. We need to configure this option. So this is a recommendation, download mode, and tell him enable and with any option except internet, okay. So he's saying that, but I should strict on bypass. It will disable everything, okay, or disable this option completely, okay. So you can see here every option, it is explained what it means. LAN 1 what it means, 0 what it means, 2 what it means, 3 what it means, okay. So let's continue working and see the other recommendations. So continue working with the recommendations. Here this is one of the good group policies. Here we know that the event viewer, it is an application on Windows that record everything's happened to the Windows operating system, either Windows Server or Windows 10, okay. So this program will record events and it will record it on the local hard disk of the machine. So we need to give him a certain size. These records should not exceed. So for example, we need the application, because if I leave it without any restrictions, it could fill my hard disk completely and I find myself not working anymore. So we need to restrict the size of the event logs recorded by the event viewer. So for example, he is recommending that the application log should be 32 megabytes. We all know that the event logs are categorized to three important categories. Application, this category records the application events or the application processes happen on the Windows. And we have the system categorization. This records any event related to the Windows itself, and the security records events related to the users or related to security, something related to login of the users, log off of the users, creating a local user, deleting a local user. So here we say this we will do it through a group policy. We should limit the application log size and the system log size and the security log size to be a certain amount. Inadequate log size will cause the log to fill up quickly. This may prevent audit events from being recorded properly and require frequent attention by administrative personnel. So when the application log reaches a certain size, what it will do, it will begin deleting the old events and replace it with newer events, okay. So we need, when the application log or the security log or the system log reaches a certain size, we need to have a backup process to back up all of these logs, okay, before the event viewer begins deleting old files and or deleting old entries and recording newer entries. At this we will lose the old entries. So we need to have a backup process to the logs when it reaches its maximum size, okay, because we have another option in the event viewer. If the application log or any log reaches a certain size, it will begin removing the old entries in the log and writing it, or write instead of it newer events, okay. So we will tell him the maximum size. So we need to do this for the application log, for the security log, for the system log, okay. So we need to go event logging service application, and then we need to tell him to specify the maximum size. So here it is a recommendation to specify maximum size for the application log and make it 32 megabyte. This is by kilobyte, by the way, so it's 32768. If you divide it by 1000, so it's 32 megabytes, okay. So here we need to do it 32 megabyte. This is for the application, and we will do it for the system. And for the security, it will be a little bit, or the size will be, or the maximum size will be larger, because these are events very critical. We need to have it as long as possible, because this records, or this is related to the events done by the users or the local users on the machine. Okay, so we need to give it more maximum size. We need to record more and to have this data in our hands more time. Okay, so we need to do this for the security log, and then the last one we will do it for the system log. Okay, and after that will stop at this recommendation. Okay, so let's go to the system and then specify the maximum size, and then give him 32 megabyte, okay, of size, and apply and okay. And then I think we need to stop, but let's see what is the upcoming recommendation and stop at it. So we will stop here at the Smart Defenders, or Windows Defender Smart Screen must be enabled. So this is the minute number 16:46. So we will stop at this recommendation. Hope this video is informative for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Until the upcoming video, thank you so much. Okay, I think I will stop here. Thank you so much. We'll close it. Okay.